God, I love Reinhard. The moment that Reinhard shows up, it's just like, my man crush is here. Everything's going to be okay. He's so strong. He's a Prince Charming. He's going to save everybody. I just love him to death. But no, episode 52, really fantastic episode. Obviously very, very brutal. Much more brutal than episode 1. And that's obvious because episode 1 was building into this. And now we're stuck in the loop. Now we're stuck in this brutal loop where this writer loves to do the most gruesome and screwed up stuff with his characters. So much into Wrath and how there's like a feedback loop that they're almost creating. Yes, obviously it's the making everybody have the same pain and destruction, but also like this the mental trauma that they're causing. But man, this episode really is hitting heavy on the idea, the possibility of Sirius being Fortuna. I just, it was planted in the back of my head last episode, and now it's just kind of coming to the forefront. Everything's kind of confirming it. I just don't really see any other way this could possibly be. Same eye color, same hair color, talking about this person, this one that they love that was taken away by this evil little homewrecker character. Everything seems to be lining up the idea of this being Fortuna stuck in the mindset of essentially Emilia taking away Pedicus. That's the only thing that I can kind of see here. It just seems like it's all lining up for that. And I don't know if that's how it's going to turn out. I don't know how it'll work because, again, we watched Fortuna get impaled, like right through the heart. That was the whole thing that kind of caused Pedicus to go through that, is the idea that he killed her. But I do recall the fact that, yes, Pandora is technically somebody seemingly that is able to create delusions, create some illusions that people think is real. I mean, that's what happened to Pedicus. Like, that's why he struck Fortuna, is that he saw Fortuna and it was, in his eyes, it was Pandora. So maybe that was all that. But again, technically, Pandora just walked away with Pedicus. But again, that could have just been a mirage that was created, and she was trying to break Emilia by having Fortuna die. And that was all, I don't know. It could be. It could be. I think it'll be kind of a, I don't know, it'll be cheap. I think it could be a little bit of a cheap thing there, but it technically works. Again, Fortuna, if that was Wrath, she believes that Emilia took away Pedicus from her, and that's what's driving that craziness. And yeah, there's still the fact that, and this is like a theory that I had a long time ago, the idea that possibly Minerva is Emilia's actual mother. And that was why that whole scene where Emilia seen her, it almost felt like she didn't want her to turn around because she was her mother. Then there's the theory that all the witches are her mother in some way. But anyways, that's all kind of wrapping up to, and by the way, Minerva, I think, was Wrath, and thus, again, Fortuna, if she became one of these archbishops, she'd be Wrath. But again, that's all speculation. I don't need confirmations or whatever in the comments, just kind of throwing this stuff out here because it's all kind of filling my head. And again, like I said, this episode really did feel like it was kind of compounding on that. Like, here it is. Okay, yeah, she does look like her. The eye color's the same. Hair color's the same. It's just a little bit longer. And now we're going into literally her being angry at Emilia, thinking that she took away this one that she loved. But that could all be in the delusions that are created for these particular archbishops. They're all crazy. But there's always like a semblance of reality in it. Like with Pedicus, there's always a semblance of reality behind it that drives them mad. It's almost like they get stuck on one thing, and that's what drives them to be completely insane and going through with this. But we'll see. It'll be a little bit too convenient, especially now that we have the two of them facing off. It's just, I think the one thing that kind of pushes it off is why wouldn't Emilia recognize her voice? Why wouldn't Emilia recognize her eye color and hair color and her voice? I'm not looking at the seiyus. I'm not looking at the seiyus. I refuse to look at the seiyu for Sirius to see if it matches Fortuna. I don't want that confirmation. I want the story to tell me, but there is a side of me that almost feels like, because this is a visual medium, not a light novel, are they showing too much? Does the light novel even show her eye color or hair color? Don't know. It would, I guess it depends on if they had a color illustration for Sirius by this point. Do we know more than the light novel readers actually knew at this point? So we'll see, but that's all that. Let's get into the episode proper. Let's go through it. I guess I can get in the OP. The OP itself didn't seem like it showed too much, thankfully. I did want to watch it, though, and didn't really get too much out of it besides a bunch of people there and fighting. So that's the assumption that's going to happen here. The only thing that kind of stood out to me was they did show Elsa very, very briefly. That was the only thing that stood out to me that might be a spoiler, is showing Elsa very briefly. But it could not be a spoiler in the idea that, yes, right now Garf is dealing with the fact that she's showing up in his mind. So that brief showing in the OP could just be Garf recalling her. That seems to be a pinnacle point of his story is that fear that he just got lucky and that it wasn't a deserved kill and that he just stumbled upon her and that he's not really strong. But again, it could also be playing to what I was saying in the last episode. I don't think she's dead. I was saying in the last episode, I don't think she's actually dead. All indications show that this girl can survive some really, really crazy stuff. Like some of the resets, we've seen her literally get turned into just nothingness, like shattered, dead. Like, how is she still alive? So again, I don't really know if they've ever mentioned what her actual ability is and why she's able to escape that, other than the fact that she is a vampire. That could obviously be enough of it, but I don't really recall many vampires that can survive being literally shattered into nothing, but we'll see. Again, don't need confirmation there, but let's get into the episode proper. Let's just dive into it. We open up the episode, of course, with the reset. Subaru obviously fearing that Emilia is in danger here because, yes, these archbishops, at least with Pedagoose, want to have her, so he decides to go alone. And this is always like the first reset's always like let's just dive in there. Like, let's just try to figure it out ourselves. Let's just kind of just rush in there. Rushes in there, sees the Lusbel, and immediately gets pulled into the spell. Now, this is very, very interesting because this whole scene is just screwed up. Immediately, he starts to feel the fear that Lusbel has and starts puking. They both start puking. They both start panicking. Subaru's panicking. Even though he doesn't want to, he's still panicking. He's feeling the fear that Lusbel has. This is like a cool little ability that Wrath seems to have, is the ability to, again, make everybody's mind become one. Everybody become one. That's how we could be happy. That's how we could be full of love, all that stuff. But the crazy part is almost the feedback that they create here. And the idea that she obviously confronts him, puts the chain around him, throws him off the side of it, and then she starts to feed that fear and that pain that's coming from Subaru back in the Lusbel. So the two of them are sharing their pain. Lusbel's over here literally feeling like he's choking. He's feeling everything that Subaru is fearing, and it's kind of playing everything into his head. All of Subaru's fears are playing his head, and then Lusbel's fears is playing into him. It's like this constant feedback loop that's just making the two of them go absolutely insane while dying. It's just, again, it's like there's multiple facets to Sirius's ability, and none of them feel like it's something you can overcome. Because that was a question mark that I had. How is Subaru going to overcome Sirius? And my first theory was, what would he do alone? And all I was thinking about was, if he goes in there, he just has to be careful because Sirius could make everybody else turn on him. That's not really necessary. Because all you have to do is go, okay, there's this person right here that's in fear. All I have to do is make Subaru feel that. So link them. Easy. All she has to do is just link them, and then the situation is resolved. Like, that's how easy she can take over the situation. It's really crazy. Interesting in this whole little scene here, though, Sirius knows who Subaru is. So this implies to me that Wrath already knows who Subaru is, which makes sense, well, sort of, because as we find out from pretty much everybody over this last year, it seems like the exploits of Subaru has been spreading. But how many people would actually know what Subaru looks like? It's not like Liliana. She is one that is looking into his stories, and she doesn't know what he looks like. He has to tell her who he is before she finally goes, oh, that one. The one that did this, this, and this, and this. But it seems like Sirius, just by walking up there, immediately knows who Subaru is. Why? Is that like maybe a missed dialogue there, that maybe he does introduce himself in that moment? Or, again, does Sirius know who Subaru is? By look and everything. Very curious. But no, that's when we get the second reset here. Immediately headbutts poor Liliana. I feel so bad for her. He just like headbutts her. She falls down. They're like, oh, he's saying that she's ugly. And then he's like, I'm going to be sick. And she's like, what? It was so mean. It's like the fact that right after that you had like, you know, it's jumping over to Subaru and he's thinking about the whole situation. And you had Priscilla. She's there like, oh, you have to wink like this. And you had Liliana is there going like this. It's like the little brief, cute moment of Priscilla trying to help Liliana out with how to wink and look cute. It's kind of funny. But no, this is the time that he decides to enlist the help of Reinhard. Yes, Reinhard, my man crush of ReZero, shows up. I was just like, yes, there's my boy. Everything's going to be okay. Like, he just gives that feeling of like, again, the Prince Charming, the one that's, I'm going to handle everything. Don't worry, I got this. Let me handle this really quickly. Just rush right in there. They talked a little bit about the idea that the town itself does not allow the casting of magic, which makes sense. You wouldn't want people in there casting magic at cost destruction. People can be harmed by magic. So it makes sense there is laws against that, but still, Ratchins does it. Again, having Reinhard show up, I was like, yes, hype levels. He's just running through this creek, just walking across, which is really interesting because they did talk about the idea that the water was like sacred and whatnot. So yet he's still kind of running through it. I wonder if there's like, would he get in trouble for that? Even still, they're casting magic. He's running across water. It's obviously emergency. They'll deal with the repercussions that are going to come from it. If he's going to cast a spell in this town, he's going to go there no matter what the ramifications are. So, but yeah, him showing up, I was like, yes, my boy. Interesting, though, because right here, Subaru was getting, caught up in this mind control, basically. And all it took was Reinhard putting his hand on his shoulder, and he snapped out of it. So it does kind of give a little bit of indication there that you can kind of be brought out of it. Is it the presence of Reinhard? Is the fact that he has the ability he does? When he touched Subaru, was he able to draw that mana? If the curse is a mana, why I say that is because at some point in this episode, we do have where Beatrice does mention that this is not a magic spell that they could possibly get away from by using his magic, but actually something like a curse. Not confirming that it's a curse, but it's something else. It's like a curse. So that makes me kind of wonder if possibly Reinhard, because of his ability to draw in mana around him, was he able to pull that out of Subaru, or was it simply just a, hey, wake up, and that's all it simply was. He wasn't far enough into it that Reinhard was able to kind of just tap him and wake him up. Still, I kind of put that as like a pin right there. Let's put a pin in that right there. A note here, though, before he summons Reinhard, Rachins did say that, where did you hear that from? About regarding the idea of the witch's cult being there. Does sort of make me wonder if, at least the camp that Rachin's in, which is, of course, Felt's group, I wonder if they were there for the sake of knowing that the witch's cult is there. Is Reinhard and Felt and all them there for that? Of course, yes, it kind of implied that Anastasia invited all these individuals, all of them except for Priscilla, but still. Now, this is where we start to get into my kind of frustration here. Is I'm not sure, and this is the same with the upcoming situation. Like, every single reset here, for some reason, Subaru seems obsessed with going to get Lusbel. Like, the whole situation here is Sirius is the threat. And everybody's being controlled by Sirius. And he's linking, and obviously at this point, we're getting in our head that she's linking them somehow, that she's controlling people somehow. But for some reason, he's always obsessed with going to Lusbel. Like, at this point, I'm starting to wonder, what is Subaru's obsession with Lusbel? I know that Lusbel is the current sacrifice, seemingly the current sacrifice, but it seems like they're all at threat. Everybody in that courtyard is basically Lusbel. So what is Subaru's obsession with, I have to go up there and get Lusbel, when everybody is being affected all equally the same as Lusbel? That's what I don't seem to understand at this point. I'm not sure if maybe they're not clarifying something in the anime adaptation that the light novel has as to why Subaru thinks that's the target. I need to get Lusbel. Again, the only thing I think of is that because based on the very first reset, Lusbel was sort of a sacrifice, that he was brought there as a sacrifice, and that Subaru thinks by getting Lusbel, I can prevent all this. I don't know. That's my only thing, is that maybe she thinks that the power source for what Sirius is doing right now all sources from him, and it's all drawn out from him. That's the only thing I can think of there. But yeah, that's all leads into the very final part of this, which is like equally as screwed up. And this is literally like the oncoming train that you know it's coming. It's the car wreck when you're driving down the road that you just have to look at. You know it's coming. You know that what you're about to see is going to be unpleasant, but you keep looking as you're driving by because for some reason your brain wants to know. But yes, the moment that Reinhard started walking up to Sirius, I'm just like, Super, you have to stop him. You know what's going to happen here. And you know everybody has the red eyes. You know it's going to be an instant kill for everybody there. He's going to slice everybody in half. But no, it's interesting because like right here, even as Sirius is losing and going to be executed, like it seems like she's accepting this. Like, okay, yeah, give me my last words. That's great. Just as a word of advice to you, the other of the archbishops aren't as kind as me, so you might not want to ask them to do the same thing. It's interesting in this moment, as everybody's linking together, she's linking them in the desire to end her. That's the interesting thing here. It's as if she's accepting this death and still wanting to link everybody. It's very interesting. Everybody is calling out for her death, and she's doing this. She's orchestrating this. It's like, it's a morbid thing. Like, even in the end, even in my death, I want everybody to share the desire to kill me. That's an interesting thing there. Of course, it does also get into the idea that these archbishops all seem to be insane. So, at least based on, Sloth and now with the case of Wrath, they're all like out of their minds. And so obviously it seems natural that they would be accepting death like that. But no, what really ruins me here is that, yes, at some point, Super realizes, I got to stop him. No, Reinhard, don't do that. But then, like, he stops and then he gets linked to everybody. And then suddenly he starts to join in with everybody else. So Subaru gets it. Subaru at some point realizes, oh, I have to stop Reinhard because he's going to kill everybody here. But the thing that kind of screwed up in the situation is, yes, Reinhard goes up there, slices him in half, everybody dies. But my mind immediately went to the idea of like, God, I can't even imagine what this Reinhard in the future would be. Like the idea that of this current timeline, because obviously whenever Subaru dies, he goes and resets, whatever. But there was that thought process, especially during the whole like sanctuary thing, the trial, this idea of the world left behind. I can't even imagine the idea of Reinhard in this world continuing on. Because right here, it seems like based on him looking back to Subaru and everybody, he acknowledges what he did. He acknowledges that I did this. Oh, of course, it makes sense. Everybody's split the same way. Everybody dies the same way. So I would imagine that he could make the connection that by doing this, I caused this. Not that while I was killing this, it caused all this, but that I killed everybody here. Subaru, the children, all these innocent people, I killed all them. Reinhard seems like a very justice-driven person, very chivalrous person. So the idea of him having killed so many innocent lives in that moment, I can't even imagine. Like my mind immediately went in that direction of like, gosh, I wonder how messed up Reinhard in that timeline would have been after this point. Like I'm almost interested in a whole timeline wrote out about what happens to Reinhard in that timeline. But at the same time, that would be extremely heartbreaking. That's when we get the next reset, and Subaru decides to enlist the help of Beatrice this time. And that turns to Shamrock being possibly a thing to use, which was kind of clever. The idea of using Shamrock is interesting. Now, yes, later on we find out that that's not something they can use because of what the spell is. It's not seemingly a spell, but more of a curse or something like that, something that cannot block the people. Because the idea here is just to, well, remove them from the situation, remove their visual from the situation. He brings up Reinhardt, which she brings up once again. They talked about this before, this idea that magic users aren't really well suited to be around Reinhardt. That was something they brought up with the very first fights in the series with Emilia and Reinhardt. Reinhardt couldn't use his abilities because she was currently healing somebody. And if Reinhardt used his full power, it would stop her from being able to heal them. So they already gotten the idea that Reinhard is essentially somebody that's not really good around mages, at least side by side. He's a mage killer, basically, because he's able to draw that magic from them and disable them. But yes, Emilia decides to join this time. I like the idea that Super at some points like, Emilia, go. She's like, you're not going to stop me by doing that usual thing, acting like you're mad at me. I know exactly what you're doing. It's not going to work. You keep putting yourself in danger for me. It's time for me to protect you. Which turns out to be true because when they actually go to fight, girl been doing some training. Emilia been doing some training. I mean, we see her doing training here and there. And of course, she survived for a long time by herself fighting monsters. But still, like, this girl, like, goes all out with, like, summoning all these ice weapons and juggling them and just taking out a spear and going crazy with a spear. It's like, damn, girl. Emilia been freaking training. Girl is, like, crazy combatant now. Of course, it's still cute because you still have... We have Ria Takahashi, Emilia's little cute voice just going, yeah. It's kind of funny to hear her little squeaking voice while she's fighting for her life. It's just goofy. Again, another case where Subaru immediately runs up at the tower. Like, again, I don't understand why he's obsessed with getting that boy. But no, this is, of course, the interesting scene. Because the moment that Sirius sees Emilia in that courtyard, flips out. You're the one. That one. You're here again. You took him away from me. You're going to take something else away from me. There's like all this sense here that you've taken away my husband. I'm going to burn you and put your ashes on his grave. All this stuff. So there's both aspects of here where she believes that Emilia has taken her husband from her. The one that she loves. Taken somebody away from me. Also implying that she believes that person is dead. Or that person is dead. And additionally not liking the idea of Emilia taking anything else from her. And of course, the overall aspect here that Sirius is acting like she's never acted before. Every other time, it's all about love, come together, everybody join together. And then here, it's, I want to kill you, I want to burn you, I want to pull your intestines through your butt. Like all this crazy anger that is suddenly welling up in Sirius. Whereas before, it's always about love. And I think that's all tying to the idea of, again, in her mind, seemingly the idea of that Emilia, or this person that looks like Emilia, has taken something from me. Now, it could be simply that Sirius Wrath sees Emilia and sees Satella, and that Satella has taken something from her. But I think what it's doing right here is going specifically on the idea of possibly, again, if she is Fortuna, she sees Emilia as the person that took Pedigus from her. But in that theory, it would require Fortuna, if it is her, that everything around Emilia being her child and the one that she raised, yes, not her actual blood child, but pretty much her daughter, having taken all of that out, and that she doesn't even know who Emilia as a person is. All she could think about is Pedigus and how he was taken from her. Which again, that's very interesting. Very interesting and very warped. But yeah, eyes, hair, and voice that seduce men. Which is a very interesting thing to say when considering that everybody in this world seems to hate it. That was what they were kind of indicating with Subaru liking Emilia and how she looks. She's like, you're weird. Everybody else sees me and sees half-elf, and they're disgusted. They hate me. They fear me. They think that I'm this witch of envy. But here, Subaru likes it. So it's interesting that she's saying all these things that normally Emilia hates, but Subaru likes. It's the one thing that he likes, which makes her angry. No, I'm not going to let you make fun of that because he thinks I am the most amazing woman in the world because of those things, and I don't want you to make fun of them. The entire time, that's the whole thing, is Sirius is just constantly parading her with insults, and Emilia the entire time is going, don't insult that, stop making fun of me, stop insulting me, fight. But yeah, that eventually leads to her saying that she's angry, Wrath being angry at the idea of her being angry, that you're not allowed to be angry because being angry belongs to me, and that he gave me that. He gave it to me. Who? Is it the one that she loves? That one gave me anger, and thus you can't have that? Really frustrates her. Again, it's hard to really kind of get a sense of what is going on here because part of this is insanity, but I think what they're repeating is something that's extremely important to them, so thus there is value there. There is meaning behind their craziness. And it seems like with this whole situation, Sirius is upset about something, a loved one of hers being taken away, believes it's Emilia, is obsessed with its anger, believes that possibly she got that anger from somebody, possibly this one that she loves, and that she doesn't want Emilia to take this also. Very interesting stuff. But yes, sets Emilia on fire, and then that's when we have the appearance of Regulus, which that is, I don't know, we're already in a difficult situation here with Wrath, but now we have Regulus. Greed has showed up, and I'm already fearing this dude because of everything that happened with Pedigus and Fortuna in the past. Now he's here again, so let's just make things even more difficult. So very interesting, very interesting. He shows up, he says that he's Regulus, Archbishop of Greed, says that what's wrong with me coming here to take the hand of the one that will soon be my wife. My 79th wife. Which they've talked about that before. With Pandora, she sent Regulus to be with his wives. That was like the power of Pandora was creating that like change of something. And then she's like, oh, right now you're currently with all your wives. And then he disappears. Very cool stuff there, by the way. I love that whole segment. But yeah, apparently she's going to be joining all those other women back there. They showed them briefly, I think, in the OP or the ED. It's just Regulus standing there with all these women behind him. Like, I respect the guy. I respect the guy. But yeah, as promised, I'll be taking her. And that's where it cuts off. What a nasty end point there. We have Wrath's going crazy. There's another thing there is that it could possibly be that Wrath is obsessed with Regulus. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. But it could be Regulus. Because right here, Regulus is saying, I'm here to get my wife. And what was Wrath upset about? You're taking this man from me. So Wrath could right now be angry at Emilia because just earlier, Regulus said that he's there to get Emilia. That could be it as well. But I don't think that's going to be the case. And would that mean that technically she got the anger from Regulus? Who knows? But yeah, overall, cool episode. Really interesting stuff. My theories are running wild here. I'm really excited about this season. The season's been just crazy. I'm absolutely loving this season so far. But anyhow, that's my thoughts on episode 52. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, hit that like button down below, comment, let me know if the episode. Again, I don't need answers to my speculation. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you like this content, you want to support the channel more, I have links in the description below. Greatly appreciate what it does. Until next time, y'all take care.